Hey, everybody, welcome to the Agency Side podcast. My name is Justin Levinson, and today we're joined with one of the experiential industry's top leaders, Ben Nazario. Ben is the Chief Growth Officer at MC²’s, where he helps guide the agency's strategy, partnerships, and expansion across the experiential and events world. He's collaborated with some of the biggest brands on the planet: Google, Pinterest, Hire, Viacom, Aristocrat, Konami Gaming, Intel, Salesforce, and more, helping them show up on major global stages through immersive, high-impact brand experiences. Thanks so much for being here today, Ben. It's great to chat with you.
Hey, nice to be here, Justin. That sounded like a lot. Wow, that's a lot of work. I'm tired. Yeah,
It was a tongue twister, but I got through it.
yeah,
But yeah, man, the first thing I like to just get into with all the guests on the show is just a little bit about your origin story. How did you get into this particular industry?
sure. I'm sure as other guests have talked about. This really wasn't something that you thought about when you were growing up, or when you were in high school, or even in college. Oh, I think I want to be in the experiential event business. Usually you stumbled into it somehow, some way. I'm no exception. That's something it's a pretty good story. I'm going to give you the short version of it. I'm going to give you the longer version, because that one requires a beer in our hand to talk about. But I think, one of the thing to mention is I ran into someone while I was at an event with, when I was a junior I was a freshman in college, and I went to a family event, and I ran into someone who was in the industry. And it's funny, but the person that invited me to that event, she said to me, the one thing I want you to do is to stay away from this person, Ralph. Stay away from Ralph. We don't know what he does. He travels. We don't know what's going on with him, but stay away from him. So, of course, the first person I walk up with, get to the event is, of course, Ralph, right? So, hey, how you doing? I'm Ralph. So I spent the next 2 hours with Ralph that evening, and he offered me an opportunity to interview on that following Monday. This on a Friday. He says, "You looking for a job?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a job." So he said, "Here's my card," and he said, "Meet me Monday at 7." I'm like, "Okay, 7 a.m." He goes, "No, 7 p.m." I'm like, "Okay." So 7 p.m. I went into this warehouse area in Long Island City, New York, and took an elevator up. It's kind of mysterious feeling, and the door opened up in the elevator, and it was like Grand Central. I mean, bright lights, machines cutting wood. It was people running around. It was activity. Reception says, "Hey, you waiting for Ralph? Okay, hey, sit here." And Ralph comes out of the conference room. "Hey, man, I'll be right back." So it was this whole activity thing. That was my first introduction into this, the trade show event experiential industry. They were preparing for a big pitch for the next day, and they were in the process of putting that whole thing together. And so it was really exciting to watch that happen. And he hired me that day on that night, and I started working at this small exhibit agency, and that's where I started, and that's where it just sort of raveled from there. I learned a lot because of that. I learned a lot of different things that I would not have if I had come in a different way. I came in at a certain level, so I had to understand almost everything, reading blueprints and just understanding how things are built and timelines. And so I learned a tremendous amount. It was definitely my boot camp. So that's where it started, and I wound up in a really great place, working with some great brands. And I recognized very quickly that this industry was different and it was special. And as I started to spend time with some of the salespeople there, I realized that it was a you'll sow what you reap situation. It was as much time as you put in, you can get back. And so being a underprivileged, broken home Hispanic from Brooklyn, hearing that I can make as much money as I possibly can, no matter what, as long as I put the time in, I'm like, okay, sign me up. Right. So, and I was relatively poor, so, I found a place where I knew that I could work hard and excel. So I made a decision early on that I was not going to be outworked in this industry. And that was the work ethic that I started to implement, and that's the facts. That's the way it is in this industry. In this industry, it's not a 9 to 5, but it also has high reward. So it really propelled me, and it helped me to groom myself and then to work with others. So
Yeah. I'm curious in that first role that you had,
yeah,
it's interesting experience. What was like, were you like an intern? Were you sort of just like, what, how did that begin?
yeah, it was interesting. I was actually, my first role was cold calling. So my first role was actually picking up the phone, and I've been doing this for a long time. So
Yeah.
we didn't have Google, right? So I was working off of hard copies of information that came from the industry, and I was finding the trade show manager, the event manager, the person who was head of marketing or creative, and I would make appointments for Ralph. And also he had me working with architects. So I would go into New York City, I'd pick up a roll of blueprints, and I'd bring it back, and I'd have to unravel the blueprints and highlight each area of the project. These were big construction projects where the shop could build things. So I had to highlight all of the millwork, and then I had to go back and I had to describe it. So I had to describe what the actual piece was. It was a cabinet, plastic laminate, finished in lacquer or whatever, double doors, and I had to put dimensions in. So I basically put a cut sheet together for the estimator. So I learned real fast how to read blueprints, and there was a lot of those. And so, and then, making appointments with people, it got better and better because I understood the business as I started to evolve. So the first few rounds I was not doing well, but then I started to be able to have a good conversations with many. So
Yeah. Those are essentially sales calls
those are
were cold calls.
those are cold sales
Cold.
calls.
Wow.
One of the things that's funny, a funny story, you know, uh, I'm not sure if this is gonna make the actual cut of this video, but you know, um, Ralph felt that I was because I was speaking to a much older audience, that he wanted to change my persona. So he changed my name, and basically I was an alias. I was a 35-year-old man with two kids, and one of them getting ready to go to college. That was my because I was speaking to people who were
Yeah.
much older than me. I
Yeah.
was and that worked for a little while, but it was a little bit. It worked, by the way. It worked.
Yeah.
You know, um, I'm not sure if it was necessary, but it did work, and it sped up the process. So, but it was interesting. It was interesting to be
Yeah.
able to do that. So I had two names, so I wasn't sure what name to respond to. So,
Sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it.
and
I know a thing or two about the cold call thing. It's part of my business too, and it takes guts, and not everybody's got it. And you've got to have that confidence, and you've got to lead with value, and you gotta just say that, hey, I've got a great product for you. I'm the person for this, and if you show weakness or you're apologetic, there's a lot of
exactly,
ways that you can find
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
doing poorly.
yeah. I think the difference is that today the our industry specifically, in exhibits, events, experiential, this is a relationship business. This is a trust business, right? That's what this is about. When a brand wants to hire an agency, or bring them in to collaborate, there has to be a certain level of trust, and there has to be a relationship. And those things just don't happen. They don't happen on a cold call. They don't happen on a text message. That doesn't happen on Snap. That happens over time of being able to be with someone and spend time with them so they can see what you're about and learn about your company and learn what your values are, and trust starts to build. But right now it's 100% about being able to have some kind of a face-to-face interaction with your clients and with your prospects, and because that's the only way that they're going to understand who the real you is, and they're
Yeah.
trying to work with you,
Yep.
right? That's critical.
Yep.
That's one of the most important parts.
Totally. Relationships are everything. I
100%.
100% agree. Yeah, a lot of people are trying to automate connections now with, with
Yep.
multi-channel reach out campaigns and many other ways, but until you actually sit down with somebody, have a conversation, they get to know you, I still think it's as old as the hills, but it's what sells now too.
Yeah, yeah, and it's no different if you look at it. Just put it on a grander scale. During the pandemic, we pivoted to these digital experiences, and they worked. For a moment in time, that was good. But you can't replace the interaction, the live interaction that happens at a trade show or at an event. is really where the needle moves, so it's critical, and today most companies and organizations and leaders are looking for a place of community. That's what they're looking for. When they go to a trade show, when an attendee goes, they're looking to be with their community and be able to have an interaction. That can't happen in the digital format. Not really, right? That to me is the big thing. That's what people are trying to figure out, whether it's a proprietary event that you're doing for someone, or whether it's, you're going to a sales conference, or a dealer meeting, or an experiential pop-up activation, or a trade show like CES. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create that value is in the community with this one-to-one face-to-face experience that helps to move the needle.
Yeah, I love that. Uh, are you seeing a lot of trends, like, in terms of these days or into the new year? Is there any sort of like any?
Yeah, yeah. um what kind of trends are you thinking, and what have you seen?
I mean, I've heard that like pop-ups are very popular now, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like I've heard from other people in the industry. But curious if you're seeing the same. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This episode is brought to you by Coming Up Creative, a relationship first boutique creative recruitment agency. We disrupt the creative ecosystem by running sophisticated, multi channel campaigns with custom video and voice outreach that actually gets responses. We actively market the agencies and brands we represent to help them stand out to today's industry's top talent, all backed by real human connection and AI powered targeting. If you're ready for a modern recruitment approach, visit www.comingupllc.com and get started today.
I think one of the things you'll see, this isn't necessarily new, but I think it's something that you're going to see more of, is some of the larger brands are going to rethink their participation at large scale trade shows, in that they might do better doing something more private or exclusive or invitation only,
Mm.
and not be on a trade show floor with the masses, but maybe really lean into that, um, to try to get a higher return, and also to be able to measure a little bit more. Listen, when you go, if you go to CES and you're going to go to see all these products, you can see all these products online, almost all of them, right? So, where's the value? Like, so now there are some exclusives, there are some new products, there are some behind the wall things you can't see. So maybe that's where and there's areas where only press are invited, and only influencers are invited, only creators are invited. That you're going to see more of that, I believe, as the year starts to unravel, because it's a better use of their dollars. I'm not sure that they're going to spend any less,
Yeah,
but I think they're going to be able to be more focused on what that relationship experience looks like, and who they have coming to see them in their space. That's something that I feel strongly you're going to see that. You'll definitely see that at CES. I know that for a fact. So you'll see that there. But I think that's certainly something you'll see more and more of.
fascinating. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about what makes up the team at MC Square. Like what type of roles are within your ecosystem?
Sure. So in my on the growth team, which is the group that I oversee, we have ambassadors, or the front line as I call them. They're the folks that are speaking to existing clients, and also trying to speak to new prospects, and trying to build relationships for the future. Those are the folks. But then there's also the creative team that helps come up with what the story needs to feel like and look like. There's designers on our organization that do the actual 3D and 2D design of what we're going to be putting together. And then there's the entire back end of carpenters, and of the graphic producers, engineers, the project managers. There's a whole army of those in different locations at MC Squares. So we have 7 facilities in the US, and they all have those different types of roles within those locations, and they're all required to help execute for our clients. Now, more and more, we also have our digital teams. We have digital folks that are now working on programs as they develop, because now the stories are being told in a digital format. That's part of the process. That's part of what the experience wants to be. So we have those folks on staff, and also the strategy team. So the strategy team is necessary more so for some of the larger brands that want us to help them figure out how they should be telling their message and how they should be engaging. That team exists at MC² as well. It takes a village. It really does, and we have that village. We also produce proprietary events. So there's a team in St. Louis and in Atlanta that just work on proprietary programs, keynotes, breakout sessions, expo halls. That whole area is a whole separate entity. And then there's the permanent environment group. This is a group that builds permanent spaces like executive briefing centers, retail spaces, showrooms, build outs for corporate brands, hospitality like Las Vegas Convention Center will have an area being built out, or casinos have areas like a high roller lounge. So that's a whole permanent section. A lot going on, a lot happening.
Yeah,
Yeah. On
it's
top
a
of that,
really
we produce festivals, right? So we produce Art Basel. Art Basel is one of the largest art festival fairs in the world. And so our parent company, MCH, owns the intellectual property for Art Basel. So we hence produce Art Basel in 5 locations globally, and Miami is coming up in December.
you got a cool job, Ben. It's a cool job. I imagine when people ask you what you do, and it's got to feel kind of like I got probably the coolest job in the room.
Yeah, it's funny. We don't even say, I don't even tell them. It's just like, yeah, I travel. That's it. So, it's one of those things. The industry itself, what's cool about it is that there's different facets that you can participate in, right? So I have my kids are all, for better or worse, around this industry. As much as I advise them not to be in the industry, I advise them to be on the brand side. No, don't be on the agency side. Of course, my son is a producer. He went to Rutgers Film. He has his own agency and he is a producer. So he's an agency. So, my daughter is a journalism major at Seton Hall. What does she wind up doing? She's a senior project manager for an agency doing product launches for pharmaceutical brands. My other daughter's was at Drexel. She's a graphic designer. Where is she now? She's an art director at a brand agency in Philly. So it's like,
Yeah.
guys, you didn't listen. What is the brand side? What are the I have one left, and she's at Clemson, and so she's a communications major, PR major. So we'll see. Hopefully, she can get into a brand and not go into this agency world.
That's funny.
It's a hard world. This is not. This is, as I just interviewed someone earlier today. You know, this is not, work life balance is not a good topic
Yeah,
in our space.
100%.
It's really really difficult.
It's got to,
We're
yeah. This
5.
kind of work has to be in your DNA, and it's late hours, but it comes with a lot of really cool things too. I mean, it comes with diversity, and there's a personality for it too. I know, just me as a person, I am programmed to work 80 hours a week. I don't know if it's healthy.
We're
I
not.
don't partake in vices or other things, but work is sort of my vice. I think I'm programmed for it. And I think I meet people when I'm recruiting in this space where you can tell if they're telling me like, oh, I'm really looking for a great work life balance. Like I'm really
Right.
working too hard here. It's like I already know this person's probably not going to be a fit
Yeah.
for it. And it's tricky to get people from brand studio side to come to an agency because it's just a whole different
Yep.
thing. But I find that people on both sides they're always looking to get to the other side. So
Yeah.
agency people are always like, oh, I want to go to brand because I want to get, but then the brand people are like, oh, I'm getting tired of working on this same thing. I want some
Right.
diverse in clients. I want to do something
Right.
new. I,
Right.
I
You're
want to
right.
grow. I want this. So you find that the grass is always greener on the other side. But as my grandfather said, it's always the same brown crap that grows everywhere.
That's it. You're right. I do think the grass is green on the brand side, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it rolls downhill, as they say, right? So I think, when usually when someone starts in our organization or even in the industry, if they can survive the first like 3 years, it's probably in their DNA at that point, probably in there, because every day is different. Every project is usually different. There's different challenges. There's travel involved. So it becomes something that if you when you leave this industry and go to some other type of operation, job, career, you miss it. You're gonna miss
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
as much as you complained about it, you're gonna miss it, right? So that's the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine you guys have events producers too. I imagine that's
We
part of
do.
it as well?
We do. We have
Yeah.
executive producers and line producers. Yep, you bet. And
Yeah.
creative directors.
Yeah, I imagine that you have to look for people that also have a bit of, like, quick thinking and flexibility and be able to kind of call an audible when it needs to be. Because I imagine this is a space where a lot of things can happen suddenly, and you need to kind of adjust.
A lot of audibles.
Yeah.
Every project has yeah, you've gotta be crafty, you've gotta be nimble, you've gotta be prepared for the what's coming. You just don't know what's gonna happen. Things happen in the event space, so that's why it's so stressful. These things, no matter how much they plan, they get there and now suddenly, holy smokes, now what? So there's a giant column in this space. Now, there's all kinds of things that can happen and they're beyond your control. So how do you navigate around that? So that's something that people learn though. They learn along the way pretty quickly. So we have a lot of those folks. Those they make a big difference. Sometimes it's not about did anything happen at the event. Sometimes it's about how quickly and efficiently did you rebound and pivot? How did that happen? Did that happen quickly, smoothly, as painlessly as possible financially? So that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I can only imagine what it's like. I know you have limited time, probably we have another 8 minutes or so. I wanna be mindful of that, but I'm interested in learning a little bit more about your particular, like, it seems like more like the growth accounts team. Maybe you can tell me what that whole ecosystem kinda looks like in terms of, like, how it functions and how you see how you quantify growth. Like, what does that sort of look like to someone who might not know?
Sure, I can give you some of that. I can't give you all of it because
Yep,
that's
we'll
per
keep it on the DL.
I have to kill you. Uh, so our team, we're structured in a manner, as I mentioned, we have professionals that are strategic sales executives that are building relationships around the country. They're while helping work with some of their key clients and building their their base business, they continue to prospect and meet people. And throughout that process, we expect them to also to learn more about the industry, right? So however that might be through associations, whatever it might be, but they're always navigating. There are like I said, I call them the front line. There are
Yeah,
ambassadors. They represent our organization and they also represent themselves. And that the expectations are high. We have high expectations, but they have a really great support team around them. That's the difference, right? Having a full account management team that supports the salesperson is critical. So we have account managers, we have account directors, we have project managers. They all surround the sales executive to manage that piece of business, whether it's an event at South by Southwest or whether they're doing an activation at F1 or something at Art Basel. There's a team that's doing all the day-to-day coordination, working with the design team, working with the engineers. The sales executive oversees that, but really goes back out and goes to another event to continue to build relationships. That support system doesn't exist in many agencies, not in that
yeah,
capacity. That's a lie. So
yeah,
this is real. That's how we can support them to execute and be efficient. On top of that, there's another group that's called sales enablement. The sales enablement team helps the strategic sales executive to put together the proposals properly. So if the sales executive is fortunate to have a relationship that gives them the opportunity to have an RFP given to him. That we take that RFP, the sales enablement team jumps in like an army jumps in. They grab the RFP, they rip it apart, and they tell the sales executive, "Stand over there, you're going to get hurt." And they start to respond to that request for proposal in its entirety. They work with the design team, with the strategy team, with the creative team, with the estimating team. So that response is basically worked on while this other what where does that sales executive go? What once he drops off the RFP, right back out to go meet some more people, go to a
love it.
dinner, go somewhere. And so then when they come back in the next and within a week, that response is now given to the salesperson and say, "Here we are, let's talk about it." They can make assessments, but now they're really focusing on their job of building relationships. That's how you build relationships and continue to grow. Otherwise, you can't have the sales executives building relationships if they're working on 3 different RFPs and they're managing an activation for F1. It's impossible.
I love that sales funnel. I agree. It is a unique thing. I mean, some agencies have their creatives doing all of the business development
And,
and account management and all that stuff.
who's responding to those questions? I mean, there's like, 50 questions. Who's answering those questions, right? So, I think that's important. And listen, it's competitive. Our business is very competitive. Just that's the way it is, and you win some, you lose some. And I think that's part of this business, a critical part of the business. I'll leave you with one last thing.
Yeah.
This is the people that know me, and if you follow me, you'll hear me say this often on my posts. In our industry specifically, and I'm sure in others as well, but people buy for three fundamental reasons, right? They buy for great creative, which is critical in our space, for a competitive price. You've got to be in the ballpark of the budget, and relationship. Relationship is the most important one, the most important one. They're trusting you. They trust you. You've got to be able to work with that prospect or with the marketer and grab and be able to understand what they're trying to accomplish in a personal manner, and then be able to get these other two right. And that's it. That's it. That's just the I'm squeezing it into this one little box, right?
Yeah.
It's more complicated than that. But that is the fundamentals of how it works. So, you know, I it's it's not we're not, we're not splitting atoms here, but it's 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 relationships.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, and I really appreciate you being on the podcast and speaking with us. All of my family is from New York and New Jersey. Speaking
Yeah,
with you, it's
go
kind of
Nick,
like my
go
dad,
Knicks.
my dad, or a lot of people in my family that have that same New York accent and everything. So it's very familiar to me, even though I'm out here in the sticks in Vermont. We're all, transplants from New York and New
Yeah,
Jersey. So, yeah, just trying to. But yeah, man, it's been great to have the conversation. Appreciate all the value and the insights. And I know you're a busy man, so thank you again for
I
being on here
appreciate you,
today.
man. I'm happy to come back anytime. All the best to you. Much success.
Awesome, man. Be well. Take care, Ben.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.